And they had no idea I mean, I knew about it. I'm doing this podcast and I see these comments all the time and I was very aware of it. I've read a lot about it. I had no idea about it. And I'm like, you have teenage children and young adult children. How do you not know? How
Mhm.
are you that ill-informed? I agree
What?
with you. To
You
me,
know
it's
what's
very,
crazy?
yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but you want to know what's crazy? When you're in a market and environment where both parents got to work long hours
Mhm.
and both parents are out of the home for extended periods of time, and both parents have to figure out so much, and you don't even have one parent that's like really super involved
Mhm.
versus they both are kind of got 40-hour work schedules, and one may have to do additional overtime, and the cost
Mhm.
of living is exploding. It's harder than ever before
Oh, yeah.
for parents, men and women, fathers and mothers. It's a lot harder now. We are living in an area in New Jersey where our property taxes per month is the cost of most people rent across the world,
Yeah, of course.
where our daycare is more than the cost for daycare for 1 to 2 kids is the equivalent of what 50 to 60% of people in the world make.
Mhm. Yeah, of course.
So it's kind of difficult to be super duper involved and actually know what's going. You know what she saw? My son's home. He turns the light off when I tell him to turn the light off, and he doesn't get in trouble. He goes to school every day. He gets good grades. Parents are just surviving. Mothers, fathers, people are just trying to figure this. You know what I'm saying? Like this is. I'm not saying it's a complete. That like there's no. They get no fault. They get no blame. I'm just saying that the context for what we're in is what's also creating this type of dynamic and environment. So it's. And then lastly, I meant to say the dynamic. Why is this exploding? And why is it so big in the UK? And why are these government officials getting all involved in this? I'm gonna tell you this right now. If you are a young woman or woman, period, and you're thinking about, well, oh my gosh, this incel thing, and all these men want to harm me and hurt me and do this or do that. A huge percentage of the boys and men that feel that way, there's a reason why they're leading the statistics of being 4 times more likely to take their own life.
Right.
They're actually far more of a danger to themselves.
Than to anybody else. So,
Even in a relationship,
mm.
you take a woman who's in a relationship with a man and a relationship with a woman, her domestic violence rates is significantly higher with another woman than with a man.
Really?
DV rates are up, divorce rates are up when same-sex relationships between two women than her with a man.
I know. It's the highest
Yes.
divorce rate is lesbian couples.
Yeah, and so is the DV rate.
What's the deep?
They should be having the most orgasms. That's
Domestic,
unbelievable.
domestic violence,
Yeah.
DV
Okay.
rate.
Right.
Yeah. So again, the show is so popular, it's so big, probably 250,000 plus people are probably going to watch it. And now they're again adding to this narrative that the most unsafe you can be is dealing with and doing life with
Mm.
men or males.
Mm.
And what I'm arguing is a huge percentage of them end up taking their own life. Very, very small percentage of them, if they get successful enough, end up finding a suitable partner,
Mm.
or they're going abroad to find a woman who can meet their needs. So it's not to say that there's violence between men and women that doesn't exist. Of course, it's a thing. All I'm suggesting is that the show, there may be ulterior motives for why the show is being pushed.
Mm.
And whenever politicians or celebrities or anybody who's not a normal person jumps in on a wave, always be wary of what's the thing that they're pushing and what's the policy that's going to come down
Sure.
as a result of this. Is this going to be a social media crackdown? Is this going to be a monitoring thing where people have to register their social ID numbers or something in order for them to even have access to a website or have access to the internet? I'm going to argue this. Prime time, it's perfect to push something like this in a political environment when Gen Z and some millennials between men and women are splitting further than they've ever been. And then you have a huge pool of women who are looking for explanations to justify why all these men are splintering off and
Mm.
voting differently than us, thinking differently than us, going their own way, not wanting to marry women. there's got to be some explanation for it, and it can't possibly be because of our decision making, our hierarchy of what we're attracted to or not attracted to. It can't be us. It's got to be because they're all incels.
Right.
It's got to be because they just outright hate women. It can't possibly be because there's been an environment that's been telling them that we hate you. Can't possibly be that. It can't be society or culture or the colleges or liberal. It can't be any of those factors, or even how we treat the men who we think don't check off all about. It can't be none of that. It's got to be because of this Netflix series, and now we need a policy to deal with that.
Yeah.
That's the level of thinking that I want all of us to start to get better at when we watch anything on social media, anything on streaming services, because I would argue much of the things that's impacting us and influencing the quote unquote gender war is not even coming from in here. It's coming from what we're seeing on screens and on these computers.
Need that Morgan Freeman. He's right, you know.
Hey, was the video they was talking about that Netflix series that went on in the UK about the young boy who ended up deleting the girl, and they say they had to go to social media to figure out. Has anybody seen that social media series? So it kind of sounds like what they, because it fits hand in hand with that. So in the series, it's a police officer trying to figure out why this like 12-year-old boy stabbed this girl to death, and in the series, they go through like all the reasons. You say what?
Adolescence.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called. And it's in that show, the boy had a crush on a girl. She didn't like him back, or maybe she pretended to like him and then turned away from him, or something where he didn't. He wasn't getting the feedback he wanted from the women his age, and his social regulation was off. So instead of him just being heartbroken or going his own way, he lashed out, caught the girl, and stabbed her up. And then they show like the rage issues he was dealing with throughout it. And they tied it into like him being bullied and teased because he's being called an incel. And they said, matter of fact, the girl pretended to like him, then said something like ill and called him an incel. Yeah. And if he was trying to say that the incel movement or calling men incels will just create more rage within men, I think that probably, when you look at a prepubescent to pubescent boy going through that change of hormones and trying to figure all that out with all the testosterone flowing, and women are shunning you, I would think that would be extremely difficult to deal with, and that could potentially cause huge social problems. It should be like looked into so that it could be some social changes that could help down. I don't know what exactly that would be. Maybe it would be like learning emotional regulation skills, or I know y'all don't agree with me, but I think one of the healthiest things that the young men have is being able to like interact with women their age and like matriculate through the process of dating so that they can have healthy regulation, because they've met different types of women they've been broken up with, or they weren't just the first woman to give me the chance. I fall deeply in love with her. She leave, I'm gonna take myself out, or I'm gonna go do something to her. Like all of that stuff, I think is signs of poor emotional regulation from inexperience.
Let me ask you this, White. Do you think that a person, a young boy who may just be an incel, but he never heard of the term, watch that TV show for the first time, and what he see is a boy getting called an incel and the boy lashing out because of humiliation or whatever, you don't think that whenever he go out in the world and he gets called that, he might start to resemble the same response maybe to that word? That new word?
I think art can emulate life. I think life can depict art, or however you want to place it. So I think they feed into each other. I think that the idea to harm somebody who does you wrong is not a new idea. Maybe the execution on how he does it, like I saw this in a movie, is potential to be there, but more so, I wouldn't say it's the influence of that. I would say it's not having the ability to to socially safeguard some of the things these young people is experiencing, especially when like you take something like bullying. Back in the day, the people that got bullied, there was a way they could shut it up. Like once they made it home, the bullying stopped probably until the next day. Now they can get bullied as long as they open their phone. Every couple minutes, the person that's bullying them, they ding, ding, ding. People texting them like, hey, I just seen XYZ. You know what I'm saying? So like the change in technology changes the landscape for adolescents. And if we don't have tools to like monitor effectively, help people navigate that, yeah, I think a lot of that stuff is gonna happen.
But I don't think that's not being socially inclined with the world. That's everything to do with in the house, like the parenting. So, for example, I'm gonna give you my real life example. I have a son who he gets upset at like his brothers or whatever. He'll start. At first, he used to attack them and would fight them, like beat them down. Then we stopped him from doing that because he's a lot older. And then now he started to cry. Right. So me and the dad, we work with that. We work with him on that every single day. This is just boys though. We're not talking about women. So imagine if it, he get a chance to get rejection from a lady, it would be the same damn thing. I think it's more of the parents that need to work on emotions with their child. Because
but like he brought that aspect up in the video though, because he said parents are the wage for childcare for 2 kids is the price of a family's income in another country. He was talking about the expensiveness, how expensive it is for parents to actually be able to have one parent actively involved or dedicate to the children's life to be able to monitor those things. Like I could catch everything that's going on in my house. My wife can catch everything that's going on in the house, but they had to interact with these other kids, and these other kids don't have the same family dynamic in mass. Like it's not often you run into people who have one stay-at-home parent, or even 2 is extremely rare. You know what I'm saying? And our kids got to interact with these kids.
Well, I'm
like
not
your
talking
kid
about
may be
stay-at-home
the one.
parent.
You say what?
I'm not talking about stay-at-home parent. I'm not saying that the kid I'm talking about doesn't go to school. He's in school. I'm talking about what I seen before he started school. This is what he already showed us this early. And I think as parents, we got to pay attention more. Like literally be in their face and like see what they're talking about. Understand when they cry, why, like instead of being like, shut up, or whatever it is that parents do, they dismissive.
Did that dude just debunked or challenged the whole narrative that a household need 2 incomes if in fact what he's saying is if 2 kids, let's just say you have 2 kids, from his point, that is the equivalent, the daycare or expenses they're going to take care of them while you're at work is the equivalent of one of the person's income. So it's like, if you do the math, it's canceling each other out. So one could argue that if you have more than 1 kid, it don't even make sense for both of y'all to be working. Because you're just canceling that other salary out when it comes to 50.
I would agree, especially at a young age. The thing that people have to do is change the expectations on what life looks like. Because if you have unrealistic expectations on how far your salary can stretch, you can't do both. So you either have to prioritize your family and your kids, or trips and the other things that you show off online or impress your friends and family with. Like for me, it's always been.
How are these other races living on less than? Because I know everybody say you got to have more 50K to take care of family. How are these other races that come into this country able to take care of their kids?
Because I just personally think it's because Black people are like the type of people that want to keep up with the Joneses. So when I was in school, if you didn't have on polo boots and a polo button down and like Levi jeans and et cetera, if you couldn't shop at Dillard's, if you couldn't shop at Hollister, you were poor. And when you have parents that are becoming parents sooner, they are a lot closer to understanding what that feels like. Because I feel like older parents will be like, well, that's not important and da 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 da. But when your mom is 20 years old and she feels like, oh, I had this kid young and I don't want nobody to think that because I had this kid young, I still can't do my big one. I'm gonna make sure I still go and get my child these Jordans. And Jordans are $200 something. So now we're spending that every month or every 2 weeks for a shoe or two versus, the Asians and the whites are spending $30 on a pair of like Skechers or New Balance because it's not that deep for them. But we've always been kind of taught that like what we look like matters, making sure we look like we got it even if we don't got it. That's why you see Range Rovers parked in the projects.
I think that's a double. It's two sides to that argument, because I do agree that we often like try and show our wealth or prove that we're worthy in being in spaces or being just existing, right? The other part of that is sometimes you damn near have to, because dressing a certain way, say as a black man, you go into a business dressed a certain way, you might not get help the same way. I've worn different outfits and gotten different responses from women, men, and establishments and the police. You know what I'm saying? So now they don't care about Jordans and all of that stuff. I'm not making an argument that you got to have Jordans on for them, but we're in a situation where it's a part low self-esteem or a part needing to prove something to others, and then another part of societal expectations create a issue that you can't individually solve unless you have hold on a second.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and answer that question real quick. I am here because I think
I
I
thought
could
you were going to
do.
answer the group question. I was like,
Shut
what in
the
the world?
hell up, Ben. First of all, it never gave 2% or whole milk. If anything, like nothing. I'm not even finna entertain that because y'all wild.
What other type
But
of
I
milk
feel
is it?
like I'm here
There's
because
half and
I
half.
have
There's
I have
lactose,
opinions and I have
soy,
bandwidth for stuff that makes
coconut.
sense. And I guess because I'm doing this along with Instagram, along with TikTok, it's becoming like an overload of men and their issues. And you also have to understand that whether people on here or in these comments realizes it or not, me probably being like one of the youngest people on here, my TikTok and my Instagram look significantly different. Like I'm listening to men that think the 1% that they're supposed to aspire to be is Future and NBA Youngboy. These are the men that are telling me they deserve submission and they want to argue with me. And I'm just like,
Okay, I get
yeah,
that. But
I'm
last week, right,
overloaded.
when we was having a conversation, it may not have seemed like I was trying to get to a solution when I was discussing the difference between men and women, but I think that's where the solution lies, because you can't come to terms with someone if you don't understand the base that they're standing on. And a lot of times women will attribute their base to the same base that men stand on and then argue with us from that perspective. Like, I believe this, so you should be believing this too. And because you don't believe it, you're in the wrong. And men can do that as well. I think about things this way. And it seemed like I was trying to beat down her throat how different men and women are, but I needed her to understand that in order to progress the conversation. So not just her, but anybody that's watching can engage in the conversation from the stance of, this is the way men think and operate. It's different than how I think and operate. In order to get to a solution, I need to understand that exists and we could compromise here. But if I operate this way and try and force you to operate that way, I'll never be the woman you think I should be, and you'll never be the man that I think you should be. It just won't work.
So I only had one thing to say, Lacey, how you feel about that whole burnout, and it's valid because I mean you've expressed your point well. I do understand your perspective, but what I wanted you to know is that this is similar to the feeling that men have with life. That same drain, that same burnout, that same pressure. That is you can just how you feel right now. Just understand that men feel like that about life on a regular basis.
And
I
as
can
I'm sitting
understand
back
that.
watching this dynamic and listening to you, Leisha, I also I hear you're overwhelmed. And I think when we're in a place of overwhelm, the very solutions that you're trying to find, you're not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to in a place of exhaustion, because exhaustion is cutting you off from being able to hear the problem in the first place that's being presented even today, because you're hearing it over and over and over again. And
Right.
so I think that's why we can't really move forward, because with your exhaustion standing in the way, it's cutting off the hearing. And so in order to be able to get to solutions, we have to have good brainstorming. We have to have the energy for curiosity. We have to have the energy to explore all of these different issues and challenges that men are having right now. So I don't know what that means for you in terms of being able to move you forward just for this panel's sake. But I think that, I do appreciate your ability to acknowledge that, out loud. And I think that it's, just that like this gentleman just said, that's something that is very similar to what the men, our counterparts, are experiencing. And so, and they're needing us to kind of stand in the gap and stay with them. And when they're feeling exhausted, that we might need to kind of step up and express that curiosity and help draw things out so that we can be able to get to solutions in a collaborative kind of way. So.
Roll that beautiful bean full of